Good evening, fellow Plexers. Tonight we're going to tackle a unique issue that John's brought up in the Plexaholics Facebook group. He wanted to add the Netflix show The Diplomat, and then he realized that there's another show from the UK with the same name. And you really just can't give general advice without going to the source metadata sites to look up each show. So first of all, I want to talk about Plex's naming um, support article for TV shows. So some people always suggest including the IMDb source ID for a TV show, but a Plex TV show series does not use IMDb at all. The source IDs for a TV show series are either TMDB or TVDB, one or the other. Plex mixes metadata from those two databases along with other databases but not IMDb together in a secret sauce method to make up their own Plex scanner and agent. So our Plex servers never scrape these databases. Plex does daily, which is why sometimes, well, not sometimes, which is why a change at one of the databases takes about a day to filter to our Plex servers, and the metadata will either be updated or added the next time the metadata scans regularly, or you scan your library manually. So this show happens to be the same year for each of the US version and the UK version. So we will need a source ID to let Plex know which show is which. Otherwise, you'd be fix matching it and just picking the right show. But if you ever had to scan those two shows back into a new Plex server, you'd have to fix match again. By adding the source ID, Plex will scan them properly the first time they scan in. So let's look at this here at TMDB. Each show is from 2023, and each show is named the same way. So Plex won't know what's going on without a source ID. Well, let's go back to this document. You should read this fully, but I'm just going over the highlights that we need to know here. Episode ordering is important. Now, I haven't checked and I'm not going to, but I assume the episode ordering at both databases is the same for the aired ordering option. It's not too often that that won't be the same, but it does happen once in a while. Well, my suggestion is to either name from TMDB fully or TVDB fully, and I would suggest using TVDB because it has extras that will be beneficial to you over the long run. TMDB is very rigid. The episode had to air as part of the normal season, or it could be off from a streaming service too, and that would be what's listed at the TMDB. On the other hand, TVDB, it doesn't have to have aired with the season. It could also be maybe an extra from the Blu-ray or DVD rip. Sometimes they find their way into the special season folders. And then TMDB, their specials would be something that probably aired outside of the normal show run, but you would not find an extra listed as a special at TMDB. The TVDB also lists virtual series that don't appear at TMDB. Let me do this. Let me open up another window. And here's a famous one. You will not see the Looney Tunes at TMDB because these are old movie shorts that have just been organized as if they were a TV show. So the first season is season 1929 with one episode in it. But it's not an episode at all. It's really just a movie short that's been renamed as if it was a TV show episode. It's just a convenient way to add all these short little cartoons into one listing. I mean, there's a lot of them here. Look at how many little cartoons are in each of these seasons. all these, if you had the full collection of these cartoons, it would clog a movie library and you'd have to make a collection for it anyway. Well, it's more suited in a TV show library, so this is a virtual show. Other examples are the Tom and Jerry movie shorts, MGM cartoons. All of Ken Burn Films documentaries are listed in both databases as separate TV shows, but only TVDB has a virtual listing called Ken Burns Films, where all of them are listed. So instead of having them all separate in a TV show library and then added to a Ken Burns collection manually, you can choose to rename them based on this listing to have all of those documentaries all together. So let's see. Is the Buffalo the 2024 one? Nope, that's from 2023. So I have this in my collection. The American Buffalo Part 1 and Part 2. Or you could have added this as its own TV series. It's just more convenient to have all of Ken Burns' documentaries grouped together. This kind of extra stuff that's beneficial to us as Plex servers just isn't allowed at TMDB. TMDB is my source ID for all my movies, but TVDB is my naming guide for my TV show library. And I haven't found it necessary to use the TVDB source ID, but it would be for this show. You'd have to use it for this show. Okay, so let me show you what I've got set up. I'm going to use my older Synology NAS and a test server there. I have 2 libraries ready to go. This is my test library here. This is all public domain episodes. And because it's my default test library, the episode ordering under the advanced settings for the library is set to the TVDB. Now I've created a new test library that has nothing in it. And the advanced settings are all default, which means the episode ordering comes from the movie database. Now that really isn't important, but I would suggest if you're going to name from the TVDB, change that episode ordering to the database you're naming from, and that way you never have to worry about it with a show to check manually. It's just going to work for you. All right, so what else have I got set up for this video? I have, as I always suggest, you should have one shared media folder on network storage if you can do it, if one NAS is enough. So under that one shared media folder, I use sort folders for each library type. And you notice everything's lowercase for Plex under a Linux operating system. The sort folders are lowercase. We'll go into this TV show library sort folder. Here's the main library. Here's that new empty TV show library with episode ordering set for TMDB. All lowercase. When you get into the library, then we return to the uppercase and spaces. So I have this set up. I have the Diplomat 2023 with this source ID, and then the same thing with this other source ID, both from TMDB. And then I do the same thing with the 2 different TVDB source IDs. And then these are very simply named folders. And I actually put the source ID into the episode. That's optional. You don't have to do it as long as it's in the folder. And then the other TMDB entry, it's very simple. A lot of people won't consider this Plex compliant. I don't like it for anything normal because if these get mixed up someplace, it's not labeled what show they are. But this is really all you need to have Plex scanning in. Plex will know what show it is based on the folder. Right, so each of the TVDB entries have a source ID too, and they're all named very simply also. So what I'll do is I'll drop these 2, cut and paste them into the library that has the episode ordering set for the movie database. And these will go into the folder structure that has the TV show library set for the TVDB episode ordering. So let's go back to Plex. It's scanning. It's updating metadata. If we back up, we should see this. Oh, this library's already added the two. Let's go back to the one set up for DVD ordering. Let's give this a manual scan. So both shows came in. Brought the metadata. So this is the TV show library that pulls episode ordering from TVDB. If you notice, we have a different season poster here. I think that's the same. So let's look at the other library pulling episode ordering from TMDB. Yeah, see, that's a different season poster. That's the same as the show poster. It just says season 1 on it. So there are slight differences depending where you're pointing the library at for episode ordering, and you should really only do that if you're naming from that same database. So that's pretty easy, right? Let's take this a step further. Let's remove everything. Okay, let's grab this one and make a copy of it. Let me just paste it at this level. And let's remove the source ID. And we've got a 50-50 chance. We're going to just consider this the American version. Let's go back into Plex for a second. Let's scan this library and empty the trash. And let's do the same thing for this library. Let's scan it and let's empty the trash. Now let's clean our bundles. And some of you will know this is the Plex dance. This is like cleansing the palette of Plex. It won't remember that those shows were added before. Oh, and we've run across a bug. Because there's only these two shows that were in here, and now there's nothing, Plex will not remove these entries if the library is empty. Let me show you how this works. Let me take this show and copy it and paste it in here. This will take a second because they're real files, real episodes. We may have enough as long as one episode is in. Okay, when Plex started to scan automatically detecting this show, then it could get rid of the shows that weren't there. It's just a little idiosyncrasy. Plex can't remove the shows from a purely empty library, but if there was one other show in and everything else removed, Plex will then remove them. So it's just a little strangeness. Okay, so we have this. Let's put it into this library that's pulling source ID or episode ordering from TVDB. And let's go to that library folder. Okay, so if we were calling this the UK version, and that's what we had, it's scanned and wrong. And we'd have to go here and we'd have to do a fix match, and then we'd have to select the other show. But that's kind of sloppy because if you put both shows in, well, you couldn't put both shows in because they both have the same year. So they couldn't be just named simply by the year. One of them is going to need the source ID at least. And if you're going to use the source ID on one, you should use it on the other. Now, I don't normally name TV show libraries with a source ID. You'll see that these shows don't have a source ID. As long as it's the name from TVDB with the year added, Plex is going to find it properly. And on my stuff, I rename things with FileBot. So I get this very rich file name. Show name, separator of space dash space, the season episode coding, separator of space dash space again, the episode name. Well, I don't know why this is that way, but the episode name, and then I add media characteristics in brackets. The naming guide for TV shows from Plex tells us anything in brackets is ignored by the scanner. So I know exactly what this media is. It's 480p, encoded with 264, H.264, one channel audio, encoded with the AAC protocol. So that's how I name things. So besides the space dash space, you could use a plain period to separate these parts from each other, but you cannot use a period to replace a natural space, nor can you use an underscore. Okay, so John, that's about it. This is a complex one. And oh, no, I wanted to cover one other topic from TVDB. Let's use another show. Let's use Shameless. All right, let's get rid of this. Let's open this. No, let's open this in a new tab and we'll go here. So, Shameless here from the UK came out in 2004. Shameless from the US came out in 2011. So typically, like for Shameless or The Office, if the show was on in the UK first, it just gets a plain name. There's no year as the official title at TVDB, unless it's a special case and the year is added, like the Diplomat. So Plex just tells us to add the year in manually. So I can just add 2004 to Shameless, and I've got a good show title for Plex. That's all Plex needs to scan in, and it'll match it up correctly. Now, I could add this two different ways. I could do Shameless with a US in parentheses, or just Shameless and the year of 2011, and Plex will know what we're doing, even if we're pulling episode ordering from TVDB. So both options are fine. And technically, I could just name this Shameless US and this one Shameless, and Plex would still find it without the year. But I do like adding the year, and I do that automatically with FileBot. So why don't we mock that up before we're done? Let's see how FileBot would handle that. Let's go in here and let's rename this Shameless, and let's rename this. All right, Shameless US and Shameless. So let's see what FileBot does with these. And I have plenty of FileBot tutorial videos. So I'm going to use my default expression that creates structure and it pulls naming from TVDB, the air date listing. All right, so Shameless US, it's asking us which one to pick, so it's this one. And I'm looking at Shameless US from the folder name. Now this one is plain shameless, so I want to pick the plain shameless option. And if you hold your mouse over it, it'll tell you the year. Well, it'll tell me it's Shameless UK. And this one tells me the first air date, 2011. This one does not tell me the first air date. All right, so if I look, it's creating structure in place in this temp working folder, Shameless with a year. It's creating the season 01 folder. And I'll just hit rename. All right, let me see what's going on here before I go too far. Oh, it's picking the same show. Let's do this one at a time. All right, so this is the US version. And we've got 2011, so we'll rename it. All right, let's open this one up. Use my default expression. So that's the right show. Refresh the browser, it's on the NAS. So now we've got the year added. And you notice FileBot did not add the US to this title, because it really doesn't need that. All right, so let's paste these into my default library that's already pulling episode ordering from TVDB. Well, that's a crazy poster. I like that one better. Frank's got to be the star. So it knows which one is which. We check an episode. This is the 2004 series from Britain. And by process of elimination, this is the US one. So this is typically how it's listed at the database. Now, if we had episode ordering from TMDB, we wouldn't have that, I bet. I always think of something new to try. So let's remove these from here. Let's put them in this library, pulling episode ordering from TMDB. And let's see how the naming's handled when we move it in here. All right, so it does keep the US. And again, Plex's scanner and agent is mixing metadata from multiple databases, including TMDB, TVDB, and other sources. I think all the artwork comes from another source now. It used to come from TMDB. But TMDB did not have the rights to share all of the posters. And I think Plex got sued once or twice by a producer or a movie house because a copywritten poster was for all of us to use in Plex. So Plex eventually sought out a new metadata source that had all the proper licensing agreements for Plex to use those posters. So that's why it doesn't come from TMDB anymore, and I can't remember where they went to. It was in a forum post. So anyway, this video is getting long, but basically, if you read and understand everything in this support article, it'll do you a world of good to know how to handle just about any situation that comes up with oddball series like the Diplomat. All right, thanks for watching and happy Plexing.